Hello, Michael Irwin here, and welcome to our masterclass and webinar today on the 3 musts to fast track the productivity of your leaders. Welcome to those that have just joined us, and there's a few more that will be coming on board. It's a relatively small group today, and we'll give you an opportunity to interact, especially through the chat, and ask some questions, and there'll be a question and answer session at the end. But given that you've been on time, how about we get started? So we'll jump straight into it, and I'll share the slides to get started. Moving across to our slideshow now. So welcome everyone. Thank you very much for being here. Great to have you here to share this information. I'm very excited about the information that I can share with you because I've seen how much of a difference it can make in people's lives. So let me tell you a little bit about me first. I am someone who loves sport. I played a few games for Collingwood many years ago. So as you can imagine, I'm very happy about Collingwood winning the grand final last year. And unfortunately, sometimes in Melbourne, people don't like that, who go for other teams, but we can always have a bit of a laugh and a banter around that. I also like to keep fit. I've done a number of fun runs, and at the moment I'm learning something new, which is also learning to dance with my partner. But my passion has become around leadership development and helping leaders to be much more engaging. There's a photo there of me with one of the groups that have been through a leadership program that I've facilitated. I'm standing on the side, over to the side there. And through this evolution, what I've found is that I've got a real passion and purpose for helping leaders to be more engaging because I see how much of a difference it can make in people's lives. And I see that I can make a difference in teams, in organizations, and hopefully, eventually, through the world to make people happier and healthier, make organizations better operating, and maybe even go so far as to have a more understanding and more peace throughout the world. So that's my purpose and passion, and I do that now through leadership and leadership developments. So a little bit more about me. I became a manager first in my late 20s. I was doing very well in my role. I was one of the best performers. So guess what? I get promoted to manager. I didn't have much training and make lots of mistakes. Essentially, I was thrown in the deep end. I was improving by trial and error. Okay, I thought I was doing okay, but actually, I thought I was doing a lot better than I truly was. I worked long hours for a long time, putting into trying to get those results. And eventually I got some leadership training and some coaching and some support. And then I found that I improved more in 1 year than I had in the previous 7 years. It made a massive difference and changed my whole life and my career. And then others started to ask me to help them and coach them as well. So I became a full-time leadership coach and leadership facilitator about 15 years ago, and I have run leadership training for over 1,500 people and have coached individually over 300 managers. And I've helped these managers to work less hours, have a much more balanced life, healthier life, and yet they still get promoted, they earn more, they're more productive, they hit targets, and they have a highly motivated team. Overall, they have more job satisfaction. So today I'm going to give you some insights as to how you achieve these things, how that you can fast track the leadership of your manager so you can transform them into effective and engaging people who are much more productive and also happier and healthier and more balanced. All right, so let's have a look at the issue, the problem we've got here. How come it is that so many managers aren't being effective? Okay. Well, essentially, this is what we're seeing. There's 3 different ways that people come through the management process. Firstly, like me, they get thrown in the deep end. You're probably the best performer, throw in there, see how you go. You understand the sort of tasks that we're doing, right? We'll make you the manager. But what happens is without any support and training, the people there, like I was, you're just in survival mode, all right? You're just trying to figure out what you've got to do as you're going along. It's slow process. There's a lot of uncertainty and you have a fear of mistakes. So you take on a lot of the work yourself, which then stifles your team and it actually impacts throughout the organization. Now, the second way, it's what I call a slow track, is where you do send the managers to some sort of courses, okay? Maybe over the first year or two that they get into the management program. What happens here, though, is that you assume that as the manager in the organization, as HR, L&D, you assume that people retain and learn a lot of that information. But actually, research shows that they don't. So what that means is that it's hard for them to implement. Okay, many try, only a very few are successful, and so they go back to thinking it's easier to do it myself. And again, what does this mean? It means from a senior management and organizational point of view, your managers aren't as effective as they could be. That flows through to having an effect on your team, their productivity. Absenteeism has an effect on turnover. There can be a difference between 10 and up to 30% in turnover, depending on how your managers are interacting with their team members, with the organization. So there's things that can hugely impact each team and the organization if the managers are either in the deep end or on the slow track. What you want them to be, okay, is on the fast track, where there's a clear transition plan from going to be in the doing role, the individual contributor, to managing and leading a team, where they know and have access to proven systems that can create high-performing teams, okay? And that they get support and ongoing coaching and development and mentoring, so they can be at their very best. So you set them up to be at their very best. Unfortunately, this does not happen very often, okay? Because what you want them to be able to do as managers and leaders is step into that role effectively and be able to delegate, be able to develop the team, be able to engage and motivate the team, but also be proactive, show initiative, add strategic value. And that's what they do when they're on the fast track. You don't get any of that if they're in the deep end or the slow track, okay? And most organizations are in the situation where their managers are in the deep end or the slow track. So let me tell you a little bit more. My research has found that over 80% of managers rate themselves 3 to 6 out of 10, where 10 out of 10 is them at their very best, right? And I get them very clearly to think about 10 out of 10 as them at their best, okay? Not perfect. It's not something that's out of their reach. 10 out of 10 is their best, so that's achievable, okay? And yet most people rate themselves 3 to 6. And 96% of these managers say they want to be 8 to 10 out of 10 every day. Yet they don't really know how to get there. And the way they usually do it is just by trying harder and working harder. Unfortunately, that's not effective. In fact, it can head you in the opposite direction. So what you've got here is a situation where people who are they're thrown in the deep end, or maybe they've got a little bit of training, are feeling and experiencing these things. So if you're in the deep end, their confidence is low. They have a high workload because of the amount of work they're taking on themselves. They do all of the hard and complex tasks, okay? They're the ones always coming in to fix when there's any problems. They're just coping day to day, so they're not thinking from a strategic perspective. They don't have enough time to develop others, even though they know they should. And they're heading towards burnout, or possibly even leaving the organization or the role, okay? Now, if you've given them some training, they can be in a little bit better situation, might be rating themselves up to 6 out of 10. Their confidence goes up and down, okay, because it's reliant on external factors, right? They try some courses and things that they've learned from the courses and books maybe, but they very quickly fall back into old habits, and the old habits get reinforced, okay? They try to put in some strategic time, but either they don't actually stick to that allocated strategic time, or while they're supposed to be strategic, they're still actually thinking about the day-to-day, so they're not very effective, creating more like silos within the organization rather than strategic added value. What you want is people to be at the 8 to 10 out of 10, where they're consistently very high in their confidence. They engage with others and help them to be motivated, and empower and help them to grow, yet still hold people accountable in a way that people accept and even enjoy. They add strategic value through, and they're proactive and initiative. So they're looking outside of just their own team into the organization, into the industry, and what they can contribute and add and bring different groups and teams together within the organization. And that's where you get such amazing improvements in productivity and output. So what are most managers finding themselves going through, especially when they don't have the appropriate induction and training and support, that they're in the deep end or they're on the slow track? They end up saying or thinking, it's easier to do it myself. All right, think about that. Maybe when you were first a manager, maybe you're doing it now, maybe you can see it in your managers in your organization. Are they saying, when I do it, I know it will be done right? Okay, so just put some thoughts in the chat there. Tell me, let me know if this is what's happening in your organization with your managers, or maybe to yourself. Okay, all right, great, thank you. I can already see there's some people there, oops, go back, who are finding they're going through this situation. Thanks, Donna, appreciate that. Thanks, Bradley. Yes, so it's easier to do it myself is coming up with quite a few people as something that they're saying regularly. And unfortunately, this means that you're sabotaging yourself from being at your very best as a leader. They are the things that are getting in the road, even though at the time it seems like the right thing to do. Here's some more things that so many people do. So again, tell me, put into the chat, are you finding that your managers or maybe yourself are doing some of these things? So do you protect the team? Do your managers protect the team by failure? Protect them from failure by stepping in and fixing the situation or fixing their work, getting up to the standard required? Okay. Yes, I see some people who are already giving me the thumbs up and replying yes to that. So thanks, Glenn. Thanks, Dan. Do your managers or yourself, do they give your team members the answers to all their questions? Do they answer everything as they come in? Well, again, I used to do this. It can be what you feel like is the right thing to do to keep things moving, but actually it's getting in the way of you being a highly engaging and effective manager and leader. And again, same flow. Do you tell people exactly what they need to do to make sure that they complete the tasks? Do you get into the detail of telling them step by step, so then you can feel a little bit more confident that it's going to get done the way that you would do it, to the standard that you want? Unfortunately, this also gets in the way. And then do you or your managers find that you're extremely busy responding to all the requests, emails, interruptions, issues, messages, and you don't get enough time? Working long hours, perhaps, and you don't get any time to be really strategic and add value. Okay. So this is the situation for so many managers, especially if they've been put in the deep end or they're on their fast track in terms of their management and leadership development. So I encourage you, please look at this and say, stop. Okay. Things are not going to work if you keep going down this line. They seem like the right things to do, the correct things to do, but actually they're not. These things, this approach actually leads to overwhelm and burnout. Now, let me tell you a quick couple of stories, okay? Two different people. One, Matthew, that was on one of these calls just a number of months ago, and went through and said, yes, I'm doing all of these things. He said, I used to do all of those things. And what happened was that I burnt out. I needed to take some time off. I took on so much work because I was it's easier for me to do it myself, or I need to tell them exactly what they need to do. And unfortunately, Matthew burnt out and he left his job. And what he told me was that he decided that he wasn't going to go into people management anymore. It was too hard. He didn't know what to do. All right. So he's gone sideways and a little bit backwards, but he feels a bit disappointed about that. And what he said to me in going through this program was, if he hadn't had an opportunity to know these things when he first started in management, it could have been different. And for the first time in several years now, he's starting to think about, or maybe he could manage people if he got the right sort of support and training. Now, contrast that to Chris, who got some help and some training and guidance, and he came to my training and did some coaching with me. And he was an overloaded product manager in an insurance team, telling me at that time that he didn't know how he could keep up with the amount of work that he was doing. And again, he's doing all the things that we're talking about here. All right, saying it's easier to do it himself, getting in and fixing everything, trying to make sure in terms of the details, people are doing exactly what he tells them to do. And he has 5 kids. Okay, so he needs to be at home to support with the family. Now, this was about 8 or 9 years ago that I did that work with Chris. Okay, now in the time we were coaching, he got promoted, and just this year, he's come back to me and he wants some more coaching. He's now the CEO of that medium-sized insurance. Sorry, he's the COO of that medium-sized insurance company. He is in the succession plan, and we're going to do some coaching about him potentially becoming the CEO. Now, when we first started coaching, he didn't think that that was in any way possible, and now he sees that he could definitely do the role of CEO. There's a difference. Burnout, leave your job, think you can't be a manager, or heading wherever you want to, whether that be up to CEO or to whatever level that you would like to, but all the options and choices are yours. Where do you want to be? So how did all of this happen? Let's have a look again. The deep end. So what typically happens is that new managers get thrown into the deep end. The best technical person, and they get told that, all right, you know how the task gets done, you know what people do in this team, will make you the manager and make sure stuff gets done. Okay, and that leads you to, from a management point of view, a trial and error approach, which is very slow, it's very tedious, it has a fear of mistakes and failure, which means it lends itself for people to say it's just easier to do it myself, or if I do it myself, I know it'll be done right. That creates a path to burnout and career derailment. And then we've got the slow track. Now that's where, as I said earlier, you get people to do the training courses. Okay. Bits and pieces here, a day there, 2 days there, 3 days there. Now there's some great information in training courses and talks and books. I've run many of these courses, 1 day, 3 days, 5 days residential. The information in them is fantastic. The concern is that the research shows that people remember or retain less than 9% of what they learn in a training course. And the longer that it goes on for, the less that they retain. Okay, so firstly, you've got to send them to multiple courses in order for them to actually be able to remember the whole course. They've got to do the same sort of course over and over. Secondly, what happens is that when they try and implement these things, like how to have the right conversations to create an engaging interaction with your workforce, how to be effective in giving feedback and giving developmental or constructive feedback. What happens is that most people, when they go to implement the situation, implement the model, they find it's much harder than it sounded in the training course. Okay. And so it doesn't work smoothly. And so then most people go back to their old habits. Okay. Now, it's not surprising. If you have to think about it, we're learning skills here. In any situation where we were looking at learning skills, we would usually go through a process of consistently getting some training, getting some support, getting some coaching, implementing those skills and improving. But that's not how most of the time that we look at our leadership development. Right? So only a very small percentage, less than 5% of organizations put their managers and leaders into the fast track, where they give them an opportunity to have some training, which that they can be involved in over and over again, but also provide the coaching and support so that they have proven effective leadership methods. It's focused on the skills development. Okay, and they've got the opportunity to know that they don't have to be perfect at it straight away, but they will get support at improving and growing and developing into highly effective managers, and that they need to let go of what they were doing as the individual contributors and team members, which is a big challenge for most people. So what we need to do instead to get from all of these puzzle pieces of what leadership looks like, get it into something that makes sense for people, okay? So one of the first things to think about is, as I said, that we're looking at developing skills. So if you were looking to develop skills with something like, say, learning a guitar, playing tennis, all right, learning another sport, golf, right? Think about what you would do. Imagine you went to a one-day workshop on how to play tennis. You never played tennis before. Okay, you watch tennis, you maybe muck around with a tennis racket or a tennis ball, but now you really want to get into it. You want to play in a club, in a competition. You went to a workshop. In that workshop, you got to hold the racket and throw the balls around a little bit, and you got a whole lot of information on serving, volleying, hitting forehands and backhands, okay? If you went out to try and play the game that following weekend, would you do very well? No, that's exactly right, because you haven't practiced and developed the skills. So what do people do in these situations? They get some coaching, they get some training, they practice, they get some more training, they practice, they work on it and continue to improve. And that's what needs to happen with leadership skills. You need to learn a little bit, try it, get some feedback, get some support, have some more coaching, try it again, and keep on working through the process until it improves. Now, the key areas that you need to look at in terms of being overall highly engaging and highly effective, firstly is about self-leadership. And that's understanding your identity and being able to develop your own authentic leadership statement. And then also understanding impact. What impacts you? What's your style? What's your personality? What are your strengths and weaknesses? And understanding that from a leadership point of view, it's about how you impact others. Okay, so it's about understanding your impact on others, and that's different from your intention, and that's really important. Then it becomes people leadership, which how do you build trust, and how do you take that leap from being the person who does the work to the manager and leader who leads others. And then you step up again to the adding value and your strategic leadership. How do you make sure there's alignment within your team and your organization? How do you develop your business acumen, your business strategic knowledge and information, and how you can contribute to the organization that way? So let's have a look at it in the first starting point of where you need to focus on and the skills you need to practice and improve. As I said, it's like learning to play guitar or to dance like I'm doing, or to play tennis. If you wanted to be very good at tennis, as I said, you need to consistently go to the coaching sessions and practice and look to improve, and understanding that you wouldn't be very good straight away. Okay, but you could work towards improving if you stick to it and keep working through that practice. So the support, the accountability, the coaching that you get in terms of improving those skills is what's critical. So here are the 3 steps to help you to be at your best, very best as a leader every day. So the first one is to create a team environment that is based on trust and is psychologically safe. We'll come back to each of these with a little more detail in a moment. Second is to use proven leadership processes for all key leadership skills like delegation, giving effective feedback, difficult conversations, and enabling people to be at their very best. And then 3, get confidential expert guidance like you would from a tennis coach every week so that you can consistently develop your leadership skills. And part of that is the input and support, and part of that is accountability. So let's look at each of these in a little bit more detail. So creating a team environment that's based on trust and is psychologically safe. There's lots of research out now, and Google was one of the ones that found that psychological safety was the #1 key factor. Firstly, they did it within Google, and then they expanded that study to over 10,000 people in different organizations, mostly in IT. And it still came up as the #1 consistent factor for a high-performing team, that people feel psychologically safe within the group. And that's up to the leader to be able to create that. Okay, and most people don't know how to go about creating that from a management and leadership point of view. Most managers believe they're building trust because they are trying to build trust and trying to create that psychological safety, even if they don't use that term. But actually, the impact they're having doesn't build trust. And the research from Leadership IQ clearly shows that the employees do not agree. So managers rate themselves high in building trust, that the employees rate them low, down in around 36% of employees, people within the team, actually believe that their managers and leaders are creating strong trust and psychological safety. The employees say that the managers focus mostly on tasks and results, okay, which is the opposite of what we're talking about here. So create an environment for your team by building trust and create something that's psychologically safe. And most managers don't realize that there's lots of small actions that break trust. There's lots and lots and lots of them. Unless you're aware of what's building trust and what's breaking trust, then you're going to end up with an unsafe environment, a lack of trust, which is going to give you a very average performing team. Okay. But if you build the trust, you're going to get that high performing team. One quick example here of what one of those small actions is when a manager makes time for one-on-one meeting with their team members and they are late, they cancel, they reschedule. You do that more than 2 times, then you're breaking trust. You're sending a message to that person to say other stuff's more important than you. Right? And that has an impact on your team member. All right, use proven leadership processes for developing your leadership skills. So what do we mean here? What this means is that most managers are left to deal with the situations as they get put into the management role, okay, either thrown in the deep end or you've been to a couple of courses, you figure it out. So they've got to do it trial and error, ad hoc, okay? And it just doesn't consistently develop your skills. It's very hard in the moment, in the middle of trying to be an effective manager, to work out what are the proven processes. It's much easier for you to take a process that you already know works, that someone else can say to you, hundreds and hundreds of people have used these approaches, used these models, used these formulas. And you know, if you put them in place, yes, you'll need to learn the skills associated with those, but you can stick with that process because it's been proven. You don't have to try and continually develop your own version of what's going to work. And that makes you effective much, much more quickly. Still takes some time to learn the skills, but at least you are confident you have a proven process and you can more quickly learn those skills. That's why it fast tracks as compared to trying to develop the process and figure out whether that's effective, as well as learn the skills that go with that process. Think about it. If you were building a house, would you want a builder who figured things out as they went along? No plans, no proven way of building things in an effective, safe methodology? Or would you want one that uses planned, proven, repeatable, safe processes? That's what people want from managers and leaders. You need proven, repeatable processes for key things like giving feedback, effective feedback. Most managers don't know how to give effective feedback, and they actually are not sure when you ask them exactly what effective feedback is. Delegation is a challenge for most people. Managing conflict, creating high performance, and even planning and being effective with your planning so that you can add strategic value and have some work-life balance. So you should be providing for your managers these proven processes. so that they can learn those skills as quickly as possible instead of thinking that they have to figure out themselves what is the process that works. And then the third part of it is getting that expert guidance. So from somewhere, get some confidential expert guidance, confidential so that the managers can open up, can be themselves, can share what's concerning them, what's troubling them, where their confidence is going. And with someone who's got the guidance to help them grow, that also knows what are some of the proven processes. So help the manager and leader develop those skills. Managers themselves will focus more on doing than on growing. They know that they would want to and like to grow, but they don't actually allocate the time. So part of it is also about accountability. So effective and engaging leadership is about developing these leadership skills. And if you don't have those leadership skills, then you are not able to be engaging as a leader. To work on and develop these skills, you've got to be thinking about it every day. If you want to be good at something, get a coach from our surgeon's TED Talk that you saw the quote earlier. And that was because he identified, even as something as different as a surgeon, that having someone to talk to work through things on a regular basis, to give some feedback, to help him to create insights as to what helps to fast track the growth of his skills. And that was after he'd been a surgeon for 20 years. So how do sports people or sports teams create a personal best? They have a group of people who are coaching them, experts of different types around them, because they know that's what's going to help them to get to their personal best. Very few, if any, people get to be at their very best by doing it all on their own. So part of this is also making sure that you get to understand yourself and be able to write your authentic leadership vision statement. Most people haven't done that. They haven't created a sense of who they want to be, what's their version of themselves, the best version of themselves as an authentic leader. Okay? And the accountability partner is a key part of it, so that people can make sure that they're talking to someone, but also someone's holding them accountable for what they say they are going to do. And when you have an accountability partner, it's much more likely that you'll engage in the actions that you're talking about with your accountability partner, because you know you're going to see them again next week and the week after. You'll also see the momentum building and you'll see the improvement, and that builds your own motivation to increase these skills. So, what do you need to consider moving forward in this situation for you or for your managers? You have a choice. You can try to do this yourself or within your organization. Maybe you do have some people who are experts in your organization who could help set this up. If you do, that's great. If you don't, then what do you think usually happens for people who have never done this before, who to try to do it themselves? Yeah, they don't do it. Think about, what will it cost you? What will it cost you in your organization, cost the managers in your organization, if they don't change? If they burn out, what will it cost them? What will it cost you in the organization needing to replace them? How often are you needing to replace them? Think about the roller coaster ride for confidence or imposter syndrome that many of your managers may be going through. How does that impact where they're going? How does that impact their productivity, the output of their teams, their career path, the growth of your organization? Slow growth for them, lack of promotion, maybe it means that they hit a wall in terms of promotion, or maybe they go like Matthew, where they say, too hard, I'm out of here, right? Which doesn't help anybody. How will you feel if you, in your organization, or if the managers in your organization are in a similar position 1, 2, 3 years' time, having really not grown? So what is it worth to you to fast track your managers? What is it worth to the managers to get them on the fast track to being at their very best, to have consistently high confidence, to have a high-performing, highly engaged team, and to be adding strategic value to the organization? Okay. So if this is where you want to be, If this is something that's important to you, then here's some more things for you to think about going forward. The Engaging Leader Transformation is an outcome-based program that I have, right, that I've helped many people with. It's the only leadership program that we work with you until you have effectively implemented the systems and built the skills so you are an engaging leader. It's not just content thrown at you, it's about helping you implement these things. So we support you through the tradition to become an engaging leader, and the program includes online video-based training, so you can go back and watch the modules over and over, as often we need to do to truly, fully understand and take in all the information, as I said earlier. You get worksheets and activities that you've got to do to ensure and show that you're understanding these modules, these parts of leadership, and you send them through to me, and I give you feedback individually about those worksheets and actions. You get 3 one-on-one individual coaching sessions, including one to set you up and guide you as to what are the key things for you to be focusing on as you start the program. And you get weekly live question and answer group coaching sessions to provide you with that expert support and accountability for the whole year, for 52 weeks. And you get a private Facebook group where you can ask me questions anytime and ask to others who are in the group, who you'll find are often in a similar situation and have their own ideas and perspectives on things that you'll benefit from. So let's have a look at this going forward. You can do this risk-free. You get a 30-day test drive. Right? Where else out there is there a leadership development course where you can get a free test drive? You can try it out, and if it's not for you, if it's not for your manager, you don't have to pay anything. Everywhere else, you have to pay for it up front and hope that they get something value out of it. Well, here, it's risk-free. And it's a done-with-you implementation. It's not like, there's the training, here's the day, here's the manual, off you go, good luck. I'm there with you along the way so that you get to definitely be able to implement what you're learning. You're implementing a system that will accelerate your leadership and development career progression, and I'm there with you along the way as you're doing that. You will need to devote about 2 hours a week in order to be at your best, okay? But you can significantly improve in as little as 90 days. So you have an opportunity here for you to have a complimentary coaching session, introductory session with me, so you can find out more about what it means for your organization, for you as an individual manager to be involved in this program. Firstly, I'll tell you a little bit more about a couple of other people here. Alex, who again started as an assistant manager at a site within his organization, Belgravia Leisure, many years ago, had the same situation in terms of being thrown in the deep end. Then he came to the coaching with me, and he really worked on his confidence, and that has enabled him to get several promotions, and now he's actually moved just from the general manager of corporate services into leading a new division within Belgravia Group. Okay. And his team has stepped up. Some of those opportunities became available because of how his team stepped up. And Jude, very, very intelligent person, done an MBA, but found that the coaching gave him the specific knowledge of implementing these leadership skills in the right way with the right techniques and subtle changes that made a huge difference to his leadership development. So we have time now for some questions. I'll also put up here for those people who would like to book in a time to have a chat with me about fast-tracking their leadership development for yourselves or for your team members. You can email directly at michael@leaderize.net, or you can go onto this link and go straight through and book in a time to have a one-on-one chat with me and find out more information how it would specifically apply to you in order to fast-track the leadership for you or for the members of your organization. So I'm going to finish up the recording there, and then I'll give those people who are still keen to ask some more questions. And I see there's a few hands up there, so we'll go back to the questions and just finish up the recording right now. Thank you for those that need to go on to the rest of their day, and I look forward to seeing you hopefully online with a one-on-one discussion and I'll come back around to answering those other questions in just a moment.